Hi everyone, and welcome to today's summary lecture. Now that I see myself on camera, I can't help but notice how much hair I have on me. Some of it's mine, but most of it's my dog's. Guess I shouldn't wear black, especially in this context. Welcome. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about really what you're going to be talking about for the rest of the semester, which is what's your purpose? What do you want to do with this campaign? And I know you've already done some brainstorming during the first week in terms of thinking about issues that really interest you or animate you or things that you're passionate about. And so really the next step is just saying, okay, well, what do you want to accomplish? What's your purpose? So if you're passionate about heart disease, what do you want to do? Do you want to decrease the incidence or diagnoses, or do you want to decrease deaths from heart disease related issues? That would be a purpose. It's just getting a little bit more specific with the topic. And the other thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about doing a situation analysis. As I may have mentioned before, it's hard to cover everything in this class, so we're going to be doing part of a situation analysis, but the important thing that you need to really focus on this week is collecting background information and thinking about the context of the issue you're interested in is in. So, I'm sure I'll use this as an example a little bit later, but right now, as I'm recording this video, maybe it won't be the case for people who are watching it in the future, but right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? And that provides a really unique context for any sort of health campaigns that are going on right now, right? Not just health campaigns, anything, right? It's kind of changed everything. So those are the type of factors that we want to take into consideration. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. And those are all the things that you're going to need to be successful in your worksheets. So let's just talk about taking the issue that you're interested in and turning it into a more direct purpose. I think the best way to go about this, I don't want to oversimplify it, but well, what's wrong with being simple, is to think about what do you want to increase or decrease, right? Normally campaigns are trying to accomplish something, and well, not normally, all the time, right? And there's usually some sort of metric attached to it, so there's something that you could see, and we're going to talk about measuring these things throughout the semester, but in general, just in your head, ask yourself, if you are interested in organ donation, for instance, like at the root of your interest in organ donation, what are you really trying to accomplish, right? What do you want to see happen? Probably you want to, let's say, increase the number of people registered, but that's a very different purpose than increasing, let's say, the number of people who receive donated organs, right? Do you see how both of those things are things that you could want to accomplish, but for good reason, right? But they're slightly different. So just say, at the end of the day, what would make you really happy, or what's the goal? That's your purpose is your goal that you really want to see if you were, had this unlimited budget, you could run this campaign. So on that worksheet, don't overthink it. That's number one. I really just want a really simple statement that's just it doesn't even, not even a full sentence, right? Just to increase this or to decrease that. But back to the COVID example, because, I'm sure you haven't heard enough about COVID. There's you could look at that in different ways too. So maybe your purpose would be to reduce the rate of transmission of COVID. And that's a really important goal, right? Because that would mean that we're flattening the curve or whatever the goal is. But that's also a different purpose than reducing the number of people who are hospitalized with it, right? Because obviously those two things are related. If you reduce the rate of transmission, there's a good chance you could, in theory, reduce the number of people who are hospitalized, but maybe not, right? Because maybe it's just slowing it down, but really at the end of the day, you don't want to just reduce how quickly people are getting it. You want to focus on how people are responding when they get it. And these are all things you're going to have to worry about down the line. One of my biggest problems is, helping students pump the brakes, because I know that when we think about these issues, we think about the bigger picture, and we're already thinking about what people are supposed to do. And I don't actually want you to go there. All I really want you to see right now is how one issue could be associated with different purposes. So just be thinking about that. But at the end of the day, all you got to do for the question on your worksheet is just give me a simple half a statement, not even a full sentence, that just says what you want to increase or what you want to decrease. Like, what's your ultimate goal? And yeah, just a quick reminder I wanted to bring up, which we've already talked about, but just to remember, this needs to really be some sort of like not for profit or any sort of special interest related issue, right? It doesn't have to be public health, but it would have to be something for the greater social good. Shouldn't be political, even though obviously politics and goodness, whatever, it's all mixed up. But so just in thinking about the topics that you guys have been bringing up, I want to make sure that you're focusing on the type of thing that would be appropriate for improving society, social marketing, right? So yeah, that just a little note about that. Okay, so moving on. The other thing you're going to have to do this week, and the reason I'm giving you 2 weeks to do this assignment instead of just one, is because it's not just reading. You're not just going to have to read your chapter and chapter 5, if you have the new book, by the way. It's not just about reading the chapter and then filling in a worksheet. This is one of the only weeks I'm asking you to go out and do extra research, right, on your issue. And honestly, you might very well want to do this before you settle on your purpose, because you might read about things related to your topic while you're doing it, and that might influence what topic you want to do, right? So we use this light lemonade. It's like this, it's I think it's Minute Maid, right? Minute Maid Light, but they just switched their formula, and it's like, it's offensive. I'm sure I'll get used to it, and my taste buds with all my diet beverages will be numbed before long, but right now it's a little much. I should have gotten some water, but I don't. Okay, sorry. There I go. Okay, so anyway, you're going to need to do background research. And I don't want you to overcomplicate this at all, because I think there's a lot of ways to do it. And this isn't like a class on like, sourcing the library or anything like that. But at the same time, for obvious reasons, I want you to be able to find credible sources and inform yourself as best as possible. I'm not going to take off a lot of points if you cite NBC News or whatever, just because it's a journalism source. Like, that's fine. But let me just show you, talk very briefly about the best ways to find information on your topic. If you know how to use EBSCOhost, that's a great resource. But honestly, I have really just I've been using Google Scholar for my own research. Google Scholar, if you just, go to Google and then you type in Google Scholar, it'll, Google will give you a search engine that only searches scholarly sources. So, sources that have been peer reviewed. You've probably talked about this in some of your other comm classes. Research on a topic that has been vetted, right? And so I think Google Scholar is a great place to start, because Google has kind of, in my opinion, it does a better job of kind of like going across different databases than EBSCOhost, where you have to kind of know which databases you need. So I'd highly recommend that, but it doesn't always have to be scholarly sources that I would consider to be credible. I do consider the CDC to be a credible source. Things that end with .edu, .govs. And there's certainly exceptions, but I think nonprofit organizations who specialize in the types of issues that you're interested in are also really good sources. But you are going to need to actually do research, go to other sources and, collect those references. I think on the worksheet I said 5. And what I want you to do is start thinking about how, because this is what's going to happen in your final proposal. If you had to convince somebody why we even needed a campaign to address a particular issue, what would you tell them? And I know, like, a lot of you have picked your topic because you've had personal experience with it. And personal experience is a very valid way of, determining what's important and what we care about and everything. But it's not the most credible way to write a proposal for a campaign or something like what we're doing here. So try to leave your personal, don't just try, just leave it out. There'll be another time for it, by the way. Personal experience can come in with the marketing. But for now, no personal experience. I want you to go and just focus on the stats, focus on the facts, right? Focus on the credible sources to flesh out. Think about this as your introductory section for what will be your final paper. You're going to flesh out exactly why this is an important issue and why there needs to be a whole campaign to get to whatever purpose you want. So if you're doing something on like environment, maybe your whole section will be on, climate change or something. And I don't know how fast the polar bears are going into the ocean. I don't know, like I'm not trying to be flippant about it. I'm just, telling you that the sky's kind of the limit in terms of how you want to approach it. I just ask that you dig in and really try to make a compelling argument using these sources, because you're making your own argument, even though you're using other people's research for why people need to pay attention to this. You might also at that time want to do some research on who's affected by it. That'll come in next week. Don't get too far ahead, but while you're out there. So there's a part in your worksheet where you need to do this background section. I think I asked for at least maybe like 5 paragraphs or something. I think it needs to be like a section. Remember, hopefully you'll be able to take what you do in this worksheet and with maybe minor edits, just, pop it into your final paper. So keep that in mind. And relatedly, hopefully your research will help you think about the things that you need for your situation analysis. Situation analysis is exactly what it sounds like. It is an analysis of our situation. That's where, earlier I talked about the context, right? It's kind of saying, okay, I want to address this issue. Let me think about how the things in our environment. So you're not even getting psychology. You don't even know who your audience is yet, right? That's going to be next week. This is all just about like what is going on right now in society, in culture at large, that could either really help a campaign on this topic or could potentially threaten it. So you're going to be asked to identify certain environmental threats and environmental opportunities. And the key is on the word environment. It's not stuff like up here, it's stuff out there, right? So this is what I was saying earlier, like COVID could be a threat or an opportunity, for instance, depending on what you're trying to do. So think about it like this. The fact that a lot of people are working from home now. Well, if you want to do, let's say, a campaign that is geared towards increasing people's level of fitness. Well, maybe actually, the fact that we're living through a pandemic right now and a lot of people aren't having to spend as much time commuting or whatever the heck they did, that's actually an opportunity, right? More people are able to do that. But it could also be a threat, right? Because even though, I don't know, people are at home, they're also at home with their loved ones and their children, and they might not have as much time, or they might have other barriers. They can't go to gyms, things like that, right? Those are things that are related to the context at large. I think I'm going to have to drink that lemonade again because my throat's all scratchy. Here it goes. Sorry. Political climate is something that can affect a lot of campaign issues. I'm sure I give this example later in the semester because it's one of my favorite ones. But when I was in grad school, I'm from Atlanta, as I mentioned, and so the CDC was around the corner, and I had a friend that was working there, and they were talking about how when George W. Bush was in office, sorry. When George W. Bush was in office, the department of the CDC that handled sexually transmitted diseases wasn't getting a lot of funding, because the Republican Party didn't have, it wasn't a big priority, right, to, talk about safe sex practices. Like, they didn't want to talk about sex at all, fine. So my friend was trying to get into a different department. Anyway, but the point I'm trying to bring up is how political context can, for instance, make certain issues, people more open to hearing about certain issues or not, right? Maybe there's some legislation on the table that could actually help you, right? That there's an opportunity. Another thing that your book mentions, of course, are opportunities and threats brought on by technology. Well, I'll go back to the working out example, right? I don't have mine on. And actually, I'm kind of tired of gamifying my exercise. But I do. I have a Fitbit, right? Step counters, those types of things. There's all sorts of technologies that could, for instance, help people become more healthy. So maybe that's something that's going on right now that your campaign could potentially leverage, right? Because that's why we're doing this, right? The reason we want to think about all these things is you want to prepare for certain threats that could come up if you're trying to address this topic. Um, like a lot of things are politicized right now that shouldn't be. So like that could be a threat if you're trying to, if you, I don't live, sorry, I'm from Georgia. If you live in Georgia and you're trying to do like a campaign to get people to wear their masks and the governor's like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Like that's a potential thing that you would have to sort of address in your campaign. But there's also all sorts of opportunities that could be going on, like legislation for COVID relief type things that you could actually take advantage of. Maybe there's some money there for you. So those are the types of things we're thinking about. I just want to emphasize again that these are things that need to be going on already. It's not things that your campaign is going to do. It's things that your campaign is going to leverage. Keep using that word, or prepare for. So, but I want to say that's all. Just spend 2 weeks researching, no big deal. Yeah, but I did want you to have time. My recommendation for handling this would be read that chapter, sit on it for a few days, and then, when you have a few minutes in between, if you're like me, procrastinating on whatever project you're supposed to be looking at, start doing some quick searches for your topic in Google Scholar and see what kind of research people have done on it. Or again, if you have a topic that some sort of organization you're familiar with has already done some research for, start collecting those sources and see, if you can collect enough to make a really compelling case about why this matters so much and why something needs to be done about it. But okay, I think that covers all the things I wanted to talk about. So good luck. Again, hopefully you can get enough done that like it'll save you a little time at the end of the semester. That's the name of the game. If you have any questions, hopefully you know where to find me in my kitchen, but in front of my computer, more importantly. So bye.